My full name is Rosalian Ethel Mills, Mills. The last name is easier than the first name. Rosalian is spelled Rosalian, and I have never come across anyone, nor has anybody that I know ever heard of that name. So I think my parents made it up. I was born on June 17 in the year 1920, and that was long ago. In June, I will be 103, 100 plus 3.
Roz, what is your secret to longevity and good health?
Oh, wow. I don't know that anybody has a real secret. If they did, it would be a miracle. And I'll tell you, I eat whatever I want. I love salami and cheese. I eat it all the time. That's probably my secret. Genes, good genes, actually. Others in my family have been many years when they died, and we came from a large family, and all my sisters, with the exception of one, and she should have been in the 90s, died in their 90s. My parents were born in Austria-Hungary before the war over there, and they changed it to, it was no longer Austria-Hungary. Mm-hmm. They started to make it, a portion of it was Czechoslovakia, and so then it became Czech, and then it became Slovakia. Everything's always mixed up in that area. Yeah. It was in those days. But my mother and father came from good old-fashioned cooking, and you know, they had gardens, for goodness sakes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My mother's victory garden during the war was, you wouldn't believe the things she grew. So in a way, I think it could be hereditary that I'm able to hang on so many years. Yeah. But I made it above all of them. They're all gone. Yeah. I'm the last of the Mohicans.
What do you do to stay young?
Well, you know, the best thing I do believe is to, when you worry about today, just worry about today, not tomorrow, not what is going to be. You have enough trouble worrying about what's happening presently, what happened in the past, without worrying about the future. And try to be happy, you know, try to have a good time, and think pleasant thoughts. Actually, just something great that happened, that sort of thing. It's a state of mind that will help. Yeah. It will help a great deal. Don't dwell on the past. Mm. It's long gone. Mm-hmm. You know. And so the best thing to do is do the best you can, and don't fret about something that might be.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. Mm-hmm. What is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory although I don't remember the details or I can't picture it. But I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we had to leave because of my dad's health. It was respiratory, and the doctors all told him, Andrew, you must leave the city. You've got to move to someplace like Arizona. It's Arizona, why? Why do I have to move? And along came somebody, a gentleman that lived in the Berkshire Hills. That's how come we ended up there. He said, why do you have to move so far away? He said, I have a huge farmhouse and with enough room for all your children. And if you'd like to come and make a move and come to Massachusetts. So that's what he decided to do. And my memory is this. When they left Bridgeport, they left on a train to Springfield, Massachusetts. Arriving in Springfield, Massachusetts, there was no transportation to Otis, or Blandford at the time. Blandford, Massachusetts. And they rode a sleigh. On a sleigh in the bitter winter, cold winter, the worst snowstorm ever. And we all rode in the sleigh 28 miles from Springfield to Otis. And the girls, my sisters, many of them, I had 6 sisters, all were crying. We don't want to move. We want to go back to Bridgeport. Oh, cry. This is awful. This is the end of the world. And I was little, and I loved it. Oh, I loved it. And even later, I loved the spring flowers and the blueberries. And as a child, I was just having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden came spring with the flowers and the buttercups and everything. And I was happy. I must have been about 3 years old.
Wow.
I recall living in the place because I can remember the rooms and everything in this huge, huge farmhouse.
What do you remember about where you grew up?
I remember everything. After we left the big house, we moved up a little closer to town, and where there were people. It was really, really in the forest. And so we settled down, built a house, and by this time, all my sisters were much older, especially the older ones, lived in Springfield because they were working, going to high school, and all that. There were 8 of us. To begin with, there were 9 children. The only boy died at 12 years old during the 1918. So he died at 12 years old, and a sister died at 15. So that left us 6 sisters, counting me. Everybody called us the House of the 7 Sisters. When I was little, I went to first grade in Springfield, lived with my sisters because it was better for me I loved it. I was 1 block away. Every Saturday we went to the movies. And I used to love those movies. I can remember them even today. My sisters always took me. So I spent first grade, second grade, third grade there. But then the fourth grade, I went up to live with my mom and dad. It was only 20 miles away. And so actually, it was different because it felt like I was an only child, which I was. And I had a lot of mothers.
Yeah.
I had a lot of older sisters, and they're all mothers. She's going to wear this dress. No, she's better off with this dress. I had nothing to say about it. I didn't care. Except one time, the wedding dress. We went to a wedding, and I wanted the dress short or long. I can't remember the reverse, whether it was short or whether it was long. I wanted it, and I got my way. Yeah, I was determined. I was, by that time, maybe 6th, 7th grade, something like that. I decided what I wanted to wear. But mainly the sisters did a lot for me. And when I was little, when I was born, people had babies at home, and some of the younger children didn't even know my mother was pregnant, and they woke up in the morning, and there's a baby. And they said, "What? Another girl?" Oh my God, not another girl. We got so many. Poor Papa. He'd scold them and he'd say, I'm gonna get you now. You go in the room. He'd pick up a sock and smack him with the sock. He was such a fine, loving man. And my mother had her hands full.
What do you remember about your grandparents or your parents?
I never met my grandparents. I'm told they came over once, but I must have been a baby. And they didn't like it. They went back home. My mother's father had owned a huge tree farm, and that was his business, the apple business. And they used to go to Preshov. By the way, I made a trip over there about 10 years ago. I saw where they lived and went to the where they were buried, the church that they went to. And I was happy to be able to walk in the steps of where they lived. It was a good, great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were neighbors. And my dad, down at the foot of the hill, it was a beautiful sight. The high Tatras, they're called, the mountains, Carpathian Mountains, were right there, just as gorgeous as could be. Oh, I couldn't take my eyes off them when I was there now. And they were gypsies that would gather down at the foot of the hills. And my dad used to love to run down when he was young, and they'd be looking for, where is Andrew? Where is Andrew? He's down there dancing with the gypsies. Oh, he was something else. But it was a beautiful sight to behold. When I went back there and saw him, I said, oh my God, Here but by the grace of God go I.
Hmm.
And I could have been born there if they hadn't arrived in the United States. But they both arrived in the United States through the usual Ellis Island with stories about passports and what they had to go through, health inspections and everything. And they made it to, they didn't come together. My dad was 17 when he arrived in the States. And he sent for my mother I think it was 5 years later.
Wow.
And they married in Pennsylvania.
Have you ever smoked, or do you drink any wine or alcohol?
I never did smoke. And but I bought a beautiful cigarette holder. Oh, it was so fancy, and it was long, and I used to send for cigarettes to London. This is when I was in the military. They'd be pink and blue and orange and whatever, you know. My husband said to me, "For goodness sakes, why are you smoking? You don't even know how to inhale." I didn't. I just, after dinner, it was nice to have a cigarette, and with my cigarette holder, and of course everybody else is smoking away, and that's why I was determined I was going to smoke too, but, you know, just this one cigarette.
Do you drink alcohol? Do you drink?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
If you were in the military, you drank alcohol, because we used to, everything, all the gatherings, and whether you had to go to this meeting or that meeting or just social or just a dance, was always at the officers' club. And everybody drank.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the bartender at one of the places in Japan, I think it was, he would see me coming in the door, and he'd have my glass already, my drink already set there with a glass of water. And I said, "Oh, the water?" Because I used to drink a drink and drink it all down at once because I was thirsty. He said, you gotta drink some water first.
What do you typically eat for breakfast?
Toast. Bread. French. Italian. Pumpernickel. All the good breads, especially the Spanish. No, they don't call it Spanish. Anyway, Vienna breads, you know, and toast those. And I could eat a half a loaf. And they say you shouldn't, you know, eat too much bread, but that's what I like. If you gave me a piece of chocolate cake and put it in front of me and a piece of bread and butter, even as a kid, I'd take the bread and butter.
Wow.
But I like the Jewish rye. Oh my God, I'd die for that.
What do you do when you're stressed out?
I'm quiet. I'm not the type of person that would burst out, get excited and rant and yell and scream and cry. It's bad to be quiet, I think, because that way you take it all in, and it's seething, you know. But I'm really, I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm really quiet. Jeffrey will never admit that. He'll never say I am. But and then I get talking, and I don't know. But I think it's best to solve it to yourself. It's not a good idea to rant and rave and cry and scream. It makes it worse. And the best thing to do is take it easy. Easy does it. With everything. Your whole life, that's what you should do. You should do it easy. It's better. And solve it. And the strange part of it is, I don't know how come, but it seems as though things have a way of taking care of themselves. When you worry about something, it seems like the worst thing in the world is happening to you. And somehow or other, something comes through that solves it. I've had that happen to me so many times that you wonder why that is, that there's an answer for everything. And sometimes good, sometimes not good, but that's life.
What does a typical day look like for you?
As of now, very easy. I'm very fortunate to be at this age and to be with my eldest son. And he looks after me. He's a good caregiver, watches me like a hawk. He's my CEO of my medications, and he makes sure that I take the proper prescriptions and that I'm doing the right thing, and I don't drop them on the floor. He comes up with me and he says, "Look what I found on the floor." I said, "Yeah, well, it's because I put it in the palm of my hand, and I go like this, then it slips down and falls on the floor." So I said, "Okay." So he said, "Next time, take it right here, roll them out, and take them two at a time." I said, "Two at a time? I can take a whole mouthful of pills and swallow them. I'm not going to sit here two at a time."
Do you sleep well? How many hours of sleep do you usually get?
Oh my God. I'm the worst. Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah, I get up tired in the morning, but when I go to bed, I'm wide awake.
How are your social media skills? Are you on Facebook?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like I don't play the games, all this passion they have for this new game, the word game. I said I'd rather sit and do a crossword puzzle.
Yeah. Are you religious?
Partly. Yes, I am. I'm also a skeptic over certain things. And I brought the children up going to Bible studies. And so you can, well, yes, I am religious, but not to the extent that it's all my life.
Yeah.
And some of the Bible stories I love the Bible stories. I love to read them. But, it's been so many years that they were written. You can imagine how many years went by when you were reading that, and you end up with a story that's not quite so. But I love the Bible stories. And I love going to John. Oh, he's so good. We had a big family. So big families, things always happen, of course. There was a lot of tragedy in our family. To begin with, my brother died at 12 years old, the only son. Then during the years and years and years, about in the 30s, I think it was, my next to the oldest sister fell on the ice, was ice skating, and she became paralyzed. They said she didn't have a stroke. They didn't know what it was. She ended up with her whole right side paralyzed for the rest of her life.
Oh, wow.
And but she made do. She married a real nice man. He was in the army and came home and met her, and she had a good life. He used to do everything for her. Her name was Helen, but he used to call her Flossie. And she used to cook, and she'd use her other hand. She learned how to do that. They were both cooks. They were both happy, and he made her happy for the rest of her life. And he died before she did, and they had a good life together. So, but that was sad. She was ill for a year in bed, and she'd be home. And they used to. I can still smell the cocoa, something that they used to rub on her skin. I can smell it today. And because I was a child, I was quite young. That must have been in 1930, 31, somewhere around there. And then my sister, my oldest sister, married a beautiful man, handsome, movie star handsome. He was from Russia. And he used to be happy. He was a happy-go-lucky guy. And they said he was the handsomest thing. And they married when I was 1 year old. And he was invited, his friend invited him to a meeting. What kind of meeting? Well, what do you say when you get there? He said, do you have anything else to do? And he said, no. Well, he went. He was also Russian. They were not American citizens. They weren't citizens. Well, come to find out, it was the communist group. It was raided, and they arrested everybody. But he was deported, never to return again. He took his wife with him, my sister. She was held behind the Iron Curtain it was 19 years before we got a letter from her when she left. Yeah. So that was the story of her life. She had 2 daughters, and one died, but they did come eventually. We got them over here because my sister was an American born, but in the 20s, when you married an alien, you lost your citizenship. And she lost her citizenship, and we fought for her to regain that. we made many trips to Washington, D.C. and to Boston and everything. We finally pulled through and got her citizenship back again. And as a matter of fact, it was one of the Supreme Court judges. I met him in Boston, and he did a splendid job for her. He said, she needs to get her citizenship back. He said, I will do everything in my power. And he did. So they came over, and her daughter came over, and they live in Westfield. And her daughter's daughter lives in Paris. And she got a job with Chanel. Yeah.
What is the most important invention that you've seen in your lifetime?
Mascara.
Yes.
I need help with my eyelashes. There are so many. I mean, there are an awful lot, but I suppose it would probably be, I'm trying to think of things, cooking, but that's out of my list because I don't like to cook. Well, I don't know. I guess when you really come down to it, because of the way we're living now and everything, I suppose I would say the cell phones and the communications. I owned a marketing research small business for 40 years out of Dover, and it was national and international, and it was in research, marketing research. One day, the woman called me on the phone. So this is my answer. And she said, well, I'll send it to you. She said, do you have a fax machine? And I said, do I have a what? She said, a fax machine. I said, I don't even know what a fax machine is. They had just come out. And so I said, I don't know. I do not have a fax machine, not yet, anyway. But I will get one now that I know about it. So that was one of the surprises of my life.
What is the weirdest fad that you remember? Any kind of phase from any of the decades, any weird fad that people went through?
The different dances, yeah. Every time you turned around in the 20s, they had their style, you know, and they each had a name as well. And I think the one that I remember was the twist, because I remember once in the officers' club, one of the young lieutenants asked me to dance. My husband didn't dance, and I had to dance with all his pilots, his co-pilots. And he said, come on, we gotta dance, you know. And he was doing the twist. I said, look, I said, I don't know how to do the twist. I move my body, but I'm not doing it right. So I'm going to stand in here and I'm going to do this, and you can twist away all you want to.
What is the best advice that you have for a young person, or the best advice you would give your younger self?
Try to be as kind as you possibly can to people. If somebody opens a door for you, give them a smile or say, nod your head. You don't even have to talk, but send a message. They like it. They like it if you say something. You don't just walk by and if somebody opens a door for you, you know, appreciate it. And if people were a little more kind to each other, I think there would be closeness in this world. So I make sure that I do it all the time. A smile helps a whole lot. And it doesn't harm you to do a smile or give a person a smile. It doesn't. You don't have to even think of anything to say. Say, you know, I don't know. I like people. I guess that I like people. I like to be amongst people and talk to people. And you know, you could change a person's life if you did something like that. Yeah. Or if somebody looks like they just got through crying or something like that, it helps, you know, to get a little kindness from somebody. It means a lot. It would be great if everybody could be like that, but such is not the way. But we can try, and it can catch on to, you know.
If you could go back to any age, what age would you choose?
In the 20s. In the 20s. Now, when I was 20, things were pretty different. There was Pearl Harbor in 1941. I was 21. Life was different. I didn't have a regular, normal sort of a life during those years because when World War II broke out, it was different in those days. The people with the acceptance of the war, everybody banded together and everything was for the cause, for the cause, for the cause. It was so different from them. Food, bacon, butter, oh my God, butter, stuff like that. So when I was in my early 20s, I didn't have a normal 20-year-old. You didn't go out on daters or anything like that. So when the war was over, I had a car, and a friend said to me, you know, I got a grandmother that lives in Florida. And she said, let's go down to Florida for the next winter. And so we did that. And that was when I really left Massachusetts. I met, my husband was a pilot. I met my husband in Palm Beach because that's where I was living at the time with two girls. We rented a house right on the beach, Worth Avenue in Palm Beach. It was a need. And I got a job as a secretary to the manager at one of the hotels. And so we had great fun in Florida. And then she said, oh, by the way, then the hotels closed. I had met Ralph, and I went out with this group of girls and my roommates, And they had dates and I didn't. And they wanted me to come anyway. I said, no, I don't want to go. My hair needs to be shampooed. I just don't think I better go out with you tonight. They made me go because her boyfriend knew Ralph and he wanted to bring Ralph to the nightclub and to meet me. And they didn't tell me this. I didn't know any of this. Fred said, see that guy sitting over there at the bar? And I said, yeah. He said, well, he's a good friend of mine, you know. And what do you think about that? I said, well, it's okay. So he introduced me to him. And my husband told me it was a setup thing. He said to Ralph, you know, you come and Ralph said, I don't do blind dates. Besides, I'm playing bridge tonight. And he said, no, you gotta come. So he said, well, I don't go on dates like that. So he talked it into it. He said, well, you could sit at the bar and we'll sit nearby, okay? And you could look her over. And I said, and that's what he did. I said, oh yeah, you looked me over like a cow, you know. Was it yes or no? So it was yes. He joined the party, and that was how I met it.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
Have no regrets. Have no regrets. Everybody has things that they could have been, should have been, might have been, sort of thing. I should have done this, I should have done that. It's bad to go over those things and say, why didn't I do that? Things happen for a reason. Anyway.
What accomplishments are you the most proud about?
I had a lot of sisters, and I felt close to them, and in times of stress, through their hard times, I spent a lot of time with those who needed support. I feel that I did a lot for them.
Yeah.
I was the youngest. So I think I did well. And I'm happy that I did. Makes you feel good.
Yeah.
They depended on me to begin with. And they were always calling me. Can you come out? Can you come out? And I said, of course.
Is there anything that you want to share with us that you haven't, or that I didn't ask you about?
Yes, but we'd be here all afternoon and into tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Should have, I would have had a list of a lot of, well, you know, I'm old. I'm older than old. Well, it's too bad I had so long to wait to become a celebrity. Well, you know, there's there's so much to talk about. I get on a whatever, what do you call it?
A tangent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a tendency to carry on, and then I think of something else, and then that comes forth, and then, I guess that happens when you get older. You want to tell everything. No way. We'll try the important things, okay?
It's all
There you
important.
go.